Welcome to the Kevin Dunn Show, and we are so excited that you've joined us today. We have two special guests, brothers, twins, and they've been battling kidney disease. When we come back from this commercial break, we're going to be talking with them and finding out how they deal and cope with life. Welcome back to the Kevin Dunn Show, and we're here with the Todd brothers. We have Kevin, Todd. How are you doing, man?
I'm good, Kevin.
Glad to hear you here today on the show. And Keith Todd.
That's it.
You got twins with 2 Ks.
Mm-hmm.
So how long have you been dealing with kidney disease?
Actually started in about, I would say, 1989, well, 87 actually.
Okay.
That's when we first had our first few tests done.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't real intense at that time, but since about 87.
87, okay. Now, Kevin, what about you?
Same thing. We pretty much we went in right after high school and had a kidney biopsy done. And after the kidney biopsy, we were told pretty much that everything was good.
Okay.
So and actually that took place in '88. And after that happened, we went probably 10 years or more before anything else was done.
Okay.
And things just start triggering down from there.
Okay. So when you first found out that you had this disease, what were some of your initial thoughts?
Well, that my dad had gone through it.
Okay.
And we really, so to speak, we really didn't want to go through it because we knew all the pains and problems that he had.
Okay.
So, but we had to come to realize that the treatment situations were different back then.
Okay.
So, you know, when we started doing dialysis or whatever, you know, everything was different. Technology was different.
Okay, okay. Now, how did you feel when you first found out that you were diagnosed?
Honestly, I was like, Lord, I don't want to go through this.
Okay, okay.
I mean, I just couldn't really deal with it because I knew I was active and
right.
In the military, and so I really didn't want to go through it.
Okay.
And had to come to grips and come to reality that it's happening.
Okay.
And after that, after denying it and refusing it for almost a year and a half.
Okay.
And
wow.
Came to grips with it and realized that, okay, it's not a life-threatening, so to speak, it's just a life-altering situation, and it allowed me to be able to deal better with it.
Okay, you said your dad had the disease as well.
Yes.
What are some other family members, are there other family members who've been diagnosed with kidney disease as well?
Wow, yes.
On
my mom's side, her brother,
her
mom, and on our side, on my dad's side, my dad, my grandmother, one of my aunts, 2 of my aunts, cousin, and
us,
me, Kevin, and mom. So it's quite a few.
Okay. I noticed. I first read this story, I think, in the LaGrange Daily News some 3 or 4 months ago when they did a story on your family and what you were going through. Now, have people passed from this disease in your family?
Oh, yes. On my dad's side, my grandmother, 2 aunts, and a cousin has passed from. They didn't actually have the disease; they had kidney failure.
Okay.
But my dad had the disease.
Okay.
My aunts and my grandmother, cousins had the kidney failure.
Okay.
And on my mom's side, my grandmother, and my uncle, they just had kidney failure.
Okay. And you said something when we were talking outside that the disease leads to failure.
Right.
There are 2 different entities to both of those.
Right.
It is. The disease is which is one that we know is hard to say, FSGS,
Okay.
focal segmental glomerulosclerosis. And it's the disease that causes the kidneys the filters not to actually work, they become clogged, and so therefore nothing's passing through. And once that happens, it causes the kidneys to shut down. And after the kidneys start shutting down, not a lot of bathroom time, and things of that nature. So and it just starts to trickle a whole lot of other things.
Now, have doctors shared with you guys why this disease is so prevalent in your family?
No, I mean, it's never been said exactly why. All we've ever heard pretty much was it's just hereditary. And from there it was pretty much left alone. Yeah.
Dr. McClellan, maybe 15 years ago or something like that, when we were first diagnosed and it was so widespread in our family, started running tests and doing different magazine articles and different things, pertaining to our family, but never really gave us the in-depth details of it. So really don't know where it comes from, how it came, and I've done some research myself, but just hadn't got the information that we really looking for to kind of put a top on it.
So what are some things that you have to do to maintain, as far as taking care of your body on a daily basis, to give you the best chances to have a normal life?
Well, first and foremost, I have to do dialysis 3 days a week.
Okay.
You're pretty much, everybody that goes there to dialysis, you're at least 3 hours a day, 3 days a week. You have a certain diet that you have to go by. It's certain things that you have to cut out, like you can't eat so many different type of green vegetables, dried beans you have to cut out, because. And now that I'm on a fluid restriction, I have to watch my fluid intake, because by not, producing a lot of urine, that the fluid intake is key.
Okay.
So
Okay.
Now, Kevin, I was just the opposite, really.
Okay.
I mean, they told me what I was supposed to do, but I kind of, with the help of my wife, she made sure I did right.
Okay.
But, being at home by myself when she was working, I didn't really stick to it, and I kind of took it as a joke.
Okay.
And, okay, I'll be okay, and didn't always do what I was supposed to do, but I found out the hard way by not doing it and following the guidelines that they set. Then it made things worse. But for me now is, after having a transplant, it's just regular exercise, and that's something they stress. Eating healthy, I can pretty much eat what I want to now, but just don't eat a lot of it. But now I will say I love to eat. I mean, too. But so it gets hard sometimes. But we have restrictions that we have to follow closely.
Okay. I noticed your mom was diagnosed with kidney disease back in 2010. I was a mama's boy. I'm not saying that you guys are. But Kevin, when you first got the news that your mom had this disease, what was your take on that, knowing that your mom had?
Well, Kevin, it wasn't when I got the news from that she was going on dialysis, it was what bothered me more with her is that she really didn't want to do it. Because she knew what I was going through, what Keith went through, and she took care of my dad when he was on dialysis, and she saw the effect that dialysis put on us, and so her thought was that it was going to just tear her body down, and she wasn't going to be able to take it, and for once she can't stand needles, so she didn't want the needles being stuck in her every day. And on top of that, I had peritoneal dialysis, and I went through some changes with that, with the infection, and that's what she wanted to do. So it was just all these different thoughts going through my head, that the stuff that we all had gone through, and it was going to really her to see that her willpower wasn't as strong as ours when we started. So that kind of just put a little damper on me.
Okay. Keith, what was your initial thought when you found out your mom
It was saddening for me simply because I knew my mom's tolerance level. Wasn't really a mama's boy, but kind of was.
Okay.
And just to see, my mom is the sweetest person you ever want to meet, and she's real laid back and easygoing, and I knew that this would kind of devastate her, and so I really didn't want her to go through it, and I think I probably cried about it more than she did, you know, because it was just so devastating, and I knew what I had gone through, knew what Kevin was going through, knew what Dad went through, and it was just devastating, and to know that Mom was, you know, the only one we had left.
Right.
And to know to be going through this as well. So it was frightening, but yet at the same time, I knew that she could get better from it.
Great, great. Okay, we're going to have to pause and take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we're going to find out more about Keith's transplant, and we're going to find out about Kevin, who's back on the list as far as receiving a transplant. Back to the Kevin Dunn Show, where we have Keith and Kevin Todd. Keith, we want to ask you about, you just recently, well not recently, but within the last 2 or 3 years, you've gone through a kidney transplant. Yes. Can you tell us a little bit about that process and what you went through?
In 2004 is when I actually received my transplant, and I received a call, and they asked me would I take a kidney from somebody I didn't know. And at that time, I was like, oh, yeah, you know, definitely. And it was like, well, you know, she don't want to meet you. She just want to, you know, give the kidney and be done with it because her husband had one the previous year. So I know it was nobody but God that put us together, because one Thursday I was coming out of the clinic and she was going in. And we stopped and just looked at each other. I was holding the door for her. We just looked at each other, and it was like, that's her.
Incredible.
And God just revealed it. That's her. And when we finally met, we talked about that day when we met at the clinic. And her name is, and I love to tell people who she is. She's a little fireball. Her name is Jo Ram.
Jo Ram, okay.
She lives in Fayetteville. She's Italian. And she kids me all the time. I tell her that since I got a female kidney that I have hot flashes and all that stuff. So that's what she loved to tell me. But it was a long road to recovery. I had to, after the transplant in 2004, rolled around, and Thanksgiving, well, the day before Thanksgiving, we rolled around first of the year. I had no problems, went back in the hospital. Well, went back in the hospital around December, stayed till the first of the year. Everything looked good. 2006, I began to have a rejection. And the rejection is that, and this is, I say this to everybody that's listening to, that's taking medications for this particular issue, to take the medications.
Take the medication.
Yeah. And take them on time.
Okay.
Because I would take mine, but just, if it was supposed to be 8 and 8, then went to 9 and 9, 10 and 10, but I would take it at 10, wouldn't take it to like 12 o'clock at night, and it just wasn't working. And that's when I started having a rejection, and they took me back to Piedmont, spent 7 days, 7 days there,
7 days.
And for 7 hours a day, 7 days straight, I had treatment. And the treatment was so bad, Kevin, that I felt like I was dying. So, and it was actually cleaning my body. I had gotten so much toxin in my body again that it just felt like I was dying.
That's amazing.
So it felt just that bad. But I think, thanks be to God, thanks be to God, thanks be to God that I'm still here.
Amen.
And the doctors gave up on me 3 times in the process.
That's incredible.
But I'm still
Still
here.
here.
Amen.
Kevin, you've been off and on the donor list for a few years.
Right.
Due to congestive heart failure and some other, but you're back on the donor list.
Right. What happened, Kevin, was that 2 years ago I was diagnosed with congestive heart failure. And during that process, I was losing blood for some strange reason we never knew. And so that which required me to have blood transfusions. And didn't know at the time, for every unit of blood that you receive, it puts you back 6 months on the list. So in a total, I had about 6 units of blood. So for every, again, I say for every unit, it's 6 months. So and I was on at that time I was on the list at UAB in Birmingham, and when once they received the information, they pulled me from the list because I had to be retested to reassure that everything was still good. So I had to go back through every single test all over again at UAB and I had been on the list for about 4 years. So once I did my testing, I went back, they gave me my information and said that I was back activated on the list, and now everything can transfer to wherever actually it'll transfer to Jacksonville when I go there, because now, once I found out that I can be on multiple lists, that I went to Erlanger Hospital in Tennessee, I went to Mayo Clinic in Jacksonville to be tested to get on their list, and now my time from UAB will transfer to Jacksonville, and it'll move me up higher on the list.
Amazing, amazing. I want you to tell the viewers, how do you deal with this? I mean, this is a lot, and it's in your family, and you have to deal with this day in and day out. Brother Keith, I want to ask you, how do you cope with this journey?
You know, I guess the first answer people would expect to hear is prayer. But being a man of God, my first one was tears.
Tears.
To try to just cleanse it and like it really wasn't happening. And through tears, prayer, family time together. And I'm good with it when it's a lot of things going on. And I don't have to just sit back and watch my brother and my mom, go through this. But I don't really think there's an easy way to deal with it. Exactly. People talk about that, everything's okay. Things are different to me when it hits home.
Exactly.
And I spend a lot of times in the hospitals praying with people, visiting people, and it's easy to pray with them. But when it comes to my own family, a lot of times I don't even know what to say. Other ministers come in and pray because a lot of times I'm at a loss for words. And so I would say it's difficult for me.
Okay.
It's difficult because me being the oldest child, I feel like everything's on my shoulders.
Okay.
So,
Brother Kevin, how do you deal with it and cope with it on a daily basis?
Well, I try to keep my mind occupied. I used to do referee basketball and umpire baseball, but when I got the congestive heart failure, I couldn't do it anymore. So now, Kevin, I pretty much rely on family. When I can talk to my family every day and thank God for my wife. My wife is there all the time, and it's been times that she couldn't even go to work because things are going on with me, and I just need her to be there. If nothing else, it's just for the support, because even going to the doctor visits, it weighs so heavy on your mind that sometimes I just can't even focus on what's going on at the doctor's office, and you need somebody there. And with the help of my wife, my brothers and sisters, and my mom, we just make it through it, because we talk about things that and to try to help each other, so that we don't fall into a rut to keep ourselves bent over at the waist because this is going on. We know that we just got to keep moving, and God is going to strengthen us, to get through it.
And can I even say, we even talk about sometimes, and a lot of people may think it's strange, but we even talk about the event of death. If something were to happen during this process, how we want things to go. And because, facing reality, the disease that we carry, it can come back, even with me having a transplant. If this kidney fails, I go back to dialysis, and then we start all over again. So we talk about, long-term stuff to try to get us through it. So, but like Kevin said, we're just so grateful that through this, our family has, I think, become closer.
Powerful.
Our wives, they understand what we go through, and they're there for us. They're always there, and they're real hard on us. So I think with family, our wives, and even my children, they're just so nurturing with us, with my mom. And I'll say this, my wife and Kevin's wife, they are so good with our mom.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
They are so good with her, and you know, I thank God for them.
Exactly.
So I thank
I
God.
know that's
for them.
incredible. I know this is a very expensive journey. The cost for medications can grow from $5,000 a month. We're just about out of time, but I want to. While I was reading the article, I know that there was a foundation set up for your mom. Before we leave, can you just tell the people, if they wanted to donate to the cause, to your mom's cause, you know, what would they need to do to get involved?
There's an account set up at Charter Bank for my mom and myself. Account-wise, I don't know, but you can just go to there's a donation account set up for Judy Todd and Kevin Todd at Charter Bank. And you can go to any Charter Bank and make any type of donation you would like to. That's
incredible. I want to thank you, Keith, for your time here today.
Yes, sir.
Brother Kevin, I want to thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Powerful blessings upon you and your journey.
Thank you, Kevin.
And we just thank you for sharing.
Yes, sir.
And y'all come back again.
Sure
Yes,
will.
sir.
All right.